Hello and welcome back. More matches coming up on the main stage per usual. And the next one, as you saw, is TLO versus Huck, a rivalry that extends all the way back to the 2010 MLG.
I know, that's really fun. We already said this earlier today that this weekend feels kind of nostalgic in many ways. You know, we've been back in Anaheim. We're having a lot of people competing in the open bracket. Players from all three regions, Europeans, North Americans, and Koreans as well. And then you have a match between Huck and TLO. Well, this might have well been like Wings of Liberty beta or something like that, right?
And you know, it's funny to see their styles start out, because I mean, old StarCraft 2 games are so ugly.
Yes, they were.
I mean, I even caught like a brief clip of something I said in like 2010, looking at just weird bad plays and being like, oh, very standard, a nice play, and I'm like, no. But you can still see the personalities shine through all the way. Huck's very gateway focused, very aggressive attacking style. TLO always wanted to be very creative and carefully manage his army groups.
No, I totally agree, Sean. That's still something that TLO is definitely known for. He always tries to win in a beautiful way, I would almost say. You know, he doesn't like to do it in an ugly way. TLO, not in general, not a Swarmos player. I'm not saying that he would never bust it out, because in the end of the day, he's a true competitor and he wants to win. But if he can win in a beautiful way, he will always go for that. While Huck, still pretty relentless. You know, if Huck can win, he is just going to go for it. It doesn't really matter how it is. Huck is like the Vin Diesel of StarCraft. Winning is winning. It doesn't matter. If you win by one gateway unit or by 6, something like that.
Well, we've also seen, I would probably say in the last year, some of the best stabilization we've seen in a long time. I mean, even into 2013, we were seeing games that would end very often at the 8, 10, 12-minute mark. You saw the Phoenix Zealot warp-ins killing Zerg players. You see a lot of 2-base all-ins killing Zerg players. And similarly, Zerg's just holding them off and the game being done. But recently, games just are very long. We've been seeing this all day. There's very few games that wrap up quickly. So that's what excites me, to see how the long-form style of these two players is going to look matched up against each other.
I couldn't agree more. I can't wait to see what our two players have to say about this, as Exodus is currently standing on stage with two very handsome StarCraft 2 players. Axe, take it away.
Kevin and Sean, thank you so much. I am here on stage with our two competitors for the next match, Mr. Chris Huck Loringer and Dario TLO
Wunsch.
That. So we're gonna ask some questions here, get a sense of what y'all are thinking right now before we enter this next match. Huck, I want to start with you. How's your day so far? How's your weekend?
Tired, but I 2-0'd my first opponent, so guess as good as it gets. I like the PCs a lot, internet's cool, so despite the delays, everything's going pretty well.
Good to hear. And TLO, how's your day so far?
Well, not that great. I lost my first series, but I just want to go back in the booth and play that clown.
Wow. Whoa. Whoa. Any response to that, Mr. Huck? No response. Okay. Huck, do you have any words for your opponent before this match gets started?
Good luck. You're going to need it.
Any final words for your opponent before this match gets started, Mr. TLO?
Yeah, I wish him luck as well, of course.
Okay. Let's go ahead and shake hands and get ready to play. Have fun, guys. Back to you, Kevin and Sean.
Nearly an eruption of drama that just ended in them being like, oh, good luck. Yeah, no, let's go ahead and play StarCraft. It's very exciting to me.
It's really fun to see these two interact with each other. I really think it's going to be an amazing series. It's hard to say I would give the edge to. I think most Europeans that are watching will definitely say, like, TLO's the favorite. TLO's competing in all these heavy European events. And I think that TLO will take it, because you know how Europeans are. They always think that...
Yeah, wait. You're European.
Yes, that's right.
Ah.
So I can look down on them and make fun of them. I'm actually nothing. Like, I've lost my identity. I don't know who I am, Sean. Help me.
Well, I'll just be on the opposite side. Go Huck. Huck's the sort of player who, I think in the early days, you always were rooting for him, always hoping that he would win. But then there was this slump period where especially he was still relying on a lot of gateway-heavy plays, and people like to poke, you know, oh, hey, you're going to do another gateway all-in. And what we've seen emerge is a Huck that still kind of gets treated a little bit based upon his style in 2012, like a 2-year-old judgment saying, oh, he's going to go all in, he's going to try to end the game fast, when in reality, we've seen him do just beautiful, beautiful long play.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially throughout the last week or last 2-3 weeks. I had the pleasure of casting quite a few games off Hawk, whether it was an Into Extreme Masters qualifier or Battlegrounds North America qualifier. He has played some sick, phenomenal macro PVZs as well. But he's, of course, like you said, you know, he's never going to stop being Hawk. He will go for the kill if he thinks it's the right play. He is not afraid to be aggressive. He wants to win no matter what. But he is definitely more than capable of just playing in a certain style. And anyone else who still says, like, Hawk, it's always the same, it's always just Nate Gate all in or something, it's just wrong. It's just not right.
Oh, it's wrong. It's evil.
Yep.
It's an evil
It's
statement.
rude.
Now, if he does go for an 8-8 all in on this map, then LOL.
Yeah, then we look really silly. But then we can just say that it was mastermind. It was a brilliant mind game.
Oh, looks like the countdown has begun. The first map is going to be Frost LE, which I think is going to be a very interesting matchup between these two. As much as the 3-base style is, you know, solid on nearly any map for Protoss, this is the map where 4-basing is very possible for Protoss. And if you have 8 gases, ooh, Rotterdam, you're a Protoss brother. I know you love that 8 gas for Zerg.
That happens very rarely, Sean. I might be Protoss brother, but I am still the Hawk of 2011. I still do make my gateway attacks. Not afraid to admit it.
Huck versus TLO, a famous rivalry that is 4 years old, still going strong. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, he's German, he's fierce. He is Team Liquid's TLO.
Or as he is currently known in Europe as the Wunderwunsch.
Ooh.
Doesn't that sound exciting, Sean?
Oh, that sounds so cool, and that's a noise that we can't even make in America. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, representing Team Evil Geniuses and renowned for his aggressive Protoss, it is Huck.
Both players have spawned on the south side of the map, which makes this interesting, and I wonder who suits that better. Hawk is definitely a player that loves to get a probe out on the map and hide a pylon. Of course, that's a lot easier when it's like cross-map, because there are more places to hide a probe still relatively close to the Zerg base than when it is horizontal positions. However, if TLO would go for some of the playstyles like some of his teammates do, for instance, like Snoot has an absolutely disgusting playstyle on this. With these spawn locations, that like at the 11-minute 30-second mark, there are like spore crawlers, queens, and swarmos knocking at your third base. It's just almost impossible to stop if you opened up with a Forge or with a Nexus first as a Protoss player.
Yeah, I honestly think that these positions strongly favor Zerg because they can spread creep to both of the third locations of Protoss. Now we're seeing two very weird moves out of Zerg. We see that there is the first Overlord going to the right. Almost never does that first Overlord head in that direction. In all maps and all matchups, really, the Zerg is trying to scout expansions first. So you normally see them head north because it runs into an expansion first. We also see the pool first coming down. What do you make out of the pool first, Roddy?
TLO has actually spoke about this a couple of times at Home Story Cup, that he feels that the difference between pool first and hatch first is so small that it's not even worth it against Protoss. You don't want to get cannon rushed. The moment that cannons will go up, you're just in so much trouble that he feels that you'll see TLO probably 98 out of 100 times go pool first these days, and at least as far as I know in most of the games that I see from him. On the other hand, the Overlord thing, I can't really explain. I don't know why. Perhaps because he feels like he doesn't have to see the natural as soon as possible because he's going pool first anyway, so it doesn't change anything, and it might mess up with the Overlord timings that Protoss players normally have. Because there are a few Protoss players right now. Let's say if Huck would have spawned in the left top side, they send their probe exactly at a certain minute mark, and I actually don't know which one it is. I apologize. Hashtag lost my passion. But like then like they send it like a few inches south more than they should, and they actually catch a glimpse of the Overlord, which normally would be pulled back. So the Zerg player doesn't reveal the fact that it knows a Nexus is there. It's all very minor. It's all very like nitpicky in the early game, in the start of the game. But it could mess up with where you think your opponent is spawning a tiny bit.
Already we see some very cool moves from Huck. He has no Forge, and I think this might be one of the hardest things to wrap your head around if you're new to the game, because you're seeing two players expand with no units, chrono boost only workers, but all of this comes down to the extremely precise scout timing of each of these players. So we see Second Gateway, Twilight Council. This looks very Dark Templary.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially with that probe heading towards the north side of this map. There's no reason for Hawk to send this probe over here unless he wants to hide something, and he wants to hide it properly because he already knows where TLO has scouted, has spawned. He scouted it in the start of the game. Stalker is going to go on a small adventure, perhaps hoping to find an Overlord or something like that. But I think you're spot on when it comes to the Dark Templar, Sean. This is not something that Hawk is unfamiliar with.
What I really like that we're seeing out of TLO is that he's still making queens. He has 2 queens, 3 queens out. No, 2 queens out. He's getting more than 3 queens, all right? Give me a break. He's going to get tons of creep spread forward. You don't really need to get your creep started too terribly early.
That probe on the north side of the map is getting dangerously close to this Overlord, and this is actually quite unfortunate. It's really important that TLO now knows that there is a probe out there, and TLO is probably wondering immediately, he's like, oh, come on, why is there a probe there? For a gateway attack, that probe is probably a little too far away. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see some at least one spore crawler in the front of the natural or something like that.
Oh my god, and Huck finds the perfect place to put a pylon
so
to
smart.
ensure that it will be spotted.
And I already see like a spore crawler go down as well in this third base. I think it's very smart play by TLO. Obviously he has excellent game sense. He's always known as one of the players that plays the most in the European scene. He's always very dedicated to the game, and so far this is going very well. Now, opening DTs and not doing damage is not as catastrophic as it used to be in Wings of Liberty. I'm sure you remember those days, Sean, but it's still pretty bad.
It's fairly catastrophic. It's not like, 2012 Doomsday catastrophic, but, it's still going to pack a pretty bad punch.
4 Dark Templars being wiped in. That is a ridiculous amount of Dark Templars. That might actually have enough DPS to straight up snipe this Spore Crawler immediately. Now, this is a big risk. This is a big commitment by Hawk. This is a big investment, but I think he's going to do ridiculous damage with it just because no one does this anymore.
Oh my god, he's trying to get the angle. He doesn't manage to do it, and 0 DTs are going to fall. This expansion might fall as well, but an Overseer is close to being done.
How far is it? Where is the Overseer being morphed? It's right close. It's actually in the natural, so it's going to take a little while. I think that this hatchery is dead for sure, and this was already worth it for Hawk. This is exactly what you want. He might even be able to save 1 or 2 of his Dark Templars. Man, Hawk is just not afraid, He's not afraid to roll the dice once in a while. You don't really see players do that anymore. Warp in 4 Dark Templars. That is such a big investment, and he's still going to have a hard time securing his third base, by the way, because the Roach counter is always scary after a DT opening.
I mean, especially with this fast of an Overseer, that Queen is going to basically be throwing rocks from above. Not particularly intimidating to defray a Zerg attack. Huck's really got to get those defenses up very fast. Only has 4 gateways, relatively low count. And I think TLO's just going to cut down and cause a cancel at this expansion.
Yep, or at least force a couple of these cannons to cancel. I think eventually this hatchery will live because of DTs just being annoying, and of course Photon Overcharge is a very useful skill to have. TLO's actually going to go for the Nexus. That is risky. He could have tried to go for cannons. He will force out a Photon Overcharge, but he won't get the Nexus. And look at the production tab, Sean.
Oh, look at the DTs trying to get into the main. You know what? They don't even need to worry that much. They're just going to 1A and kill everything that they can. An amazing drone surround, but I still don't know if it's going to be quite
It's pretty
enough.
painful. It's like you're surrounding units that will still kill your units in one swipe. That's not exactly the point of trying to surround something. But he did mess with the AI a little bit, but 17 drones have gone down.
Jeez.
Huck, who has won his first series of the day against Henderlisk, also a Zerg player, now finds himself in a pretty excellent position. And of course, Swarmos is always the unit to drag a game out, to survive a little longer. But our players are even in workers. This looks fantastic for Hawk. If he drops a Robo Base soon, or maybe he's even going to try to do it with Immortal, Blink Stalker, and Sentries, looks pretty damn good for our Protoss.
Yeah, Huck's very good at winning tournaments. And it's with plays like that. I mean, I think is he one of 2 people to win 2 MLGs?
Yes.
I know that he was certainly the first.
Yeah, he was the first, and I think Lenok was the second, correct? Or was it live? No, it was Lenok. Or was it live? I don't know.
Wow, we are. It was actually Marine King. We just got word. We need to.
Those were different.
Oh, okay. So several people have done it, but regardless, he's won 2 MLGs, and that's hard.
I guess Dongrego perhaps as well. You know what? Actually, it's not all that impressive, Sean. Maybe we should sign up for the next one.
Well, either way, this is, I think, classic TLO. Still one of the only players that I see do this. Drop creep with the Overlords, and then use the queens to plant down the creep tumors underneath.
Now, it's a cool play by TLO, but of course being aggressive also means that he's even more exposed at home, and I really think that Hawk is just going to completely ignore those swarmos. He's going to run to the other side of the map. He has a mothership core, he has sentries. We all know what sentries do. Sentries drop a lot of force fields, they zone out Locust. He might even be able to kill the entire main base of TLO if he just walks up that ramp, and I really think that TLO is going to lose his natural and can also end up losing his main base. I think that's exactly what Huck's going to go for.
Supply count's relatively even at this point. 4 more swarm hosts popping out. We see TLO trying to manage these roaches reasonably well, but oh, the force fields are amazing. Going to lock out all the locusts immediately.
And look at these Dark Templars doing work as well. DTs are not just good on the other side of the map, they're also excellent in defending. We already see Hawk walking into the main. He keeps the stalkers on the low ground. That's actually very cool. Might be able to snipe either a few swarm hosts or maybe even the Stitch Pit and the Roach Warren, but Hawk is going to deal so much damage to the infrastructure from TLO that I'm not sure if TLO will ever be able to bounce back from this. Even though these DTs, these Swarmos are going to do some real work as well.
It looks like TLO's actually just going for the counter. He has a Swarm
Does he have an Overseer there, though?
No Overseer. Uh-oh. Get the Overseer over there. And there's the Overseer finally arriving, picking off the DTs. Main base just has sentries, Immortal, Blink Stalkers. Mothership core is there, so it can recall at any point. And I think TLO might just go for these are all the swarm hosts I need play.
But the thing is, like, Hawk is able to recall home. It's not like those units are stuck on the other side of the map. He's going to kill this layer and most likely recall to the natural. And he has plenty of energy left on his sentries. So then he can just keep force fielding those locusts out for days. Of course, Hawk is taking a little bit of a beating as well. But I still think if he recalls now and then just keeps force fielding for a while, or maybe tries to go for the suicide play. He has Blink Stalkers. He could try to kill the Overseer. That would be a sick play. First Colossus is fired up. If I was Hawk, I'd really recall soon, though. Don't you think so, Sean?
Yeah, well, there's actually only one observer out on the map at this point in time. An attempted step in with these Dark Templar. Very, very careful play there by Huck. We're seeing actually the Swarm Host with only one observer on the map. Huck either gets to defend this attack or make this attack. And I think TLO has drones here. He's going to re-expand, perhaps.
A lot of Zealots being wiped in over here as well. It seems like Hawk is just going to try to kill all of TLO's buildings. There are not too many buildings left, of course. I actually wonder if there are any drones out on the map. There are currently only 4 drones on the map, and I think, oh yeah, there is a drone with the army. Never mind. Wow. Huck needs to force field. He will force field, but it was a little bit too late. He still has a mining base, of course, and now he does have his first Colossus out, as he has a second robotics facility in the main base. This is still looking very good for Huck. I was a tiny bit surprised that he didn't decide to recall, but in the end, perhaps it was the right play. As you know, there are just 15 Swarmos, which are scary, but Hawk can force field these locusts on his ramp for days.
Right now, we see the range upgrade approaching for the Colossus, and that might be all that TLO needs.
Look at these Immortals.
To type out.
Yep, all these Swarmos are starting looking very exposed. These locusts are still a little bit scary, though. They're going to chip away this Immortal, might get a sentry, but it doesn't really matter. GG is called, and Hawk, off the back of some excellent Dark Templar play in the opening phases of this game, is able to secure victory.
Kind of a funky game, number one. I mean, the typical play to go for the Swarm Hosts, we've seen that before. But the response to do it after losing the third base, and then to just say, no, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to commit to the Swarm Host play. I mean, TLO, of course, always makes for those entertaining games. Love watching them, but I think that Huck just played it out a little bit too solidly. The moments where you want to have that chance to get back in the game, Huck will never let you. He'll just do another attack and another warp in and keep warping in the DTs. That is, I think, the most DTs I've ever seen warped in a single PvZ.
Yeah, especially one that was 16 minutes long, as it wasn't a very long game, but we saw a lot of DTs. I really like what you say there, Sean, and I think you're spot on. The moment that TLO got the Swarmos, he wanted to keep those Swarmos on the other side of the map, because he's like, hey, I can actually buy a lot of time for myself if my opponent starts being busy defending my Locust, and, you know, I force him to get maybe some cannons and drop a lot of defensive force fields, but Hawk says immediately, like, nah, yeah, you might kill some workers, you might kill some buildings over here, but I'm just going to run to the other side of the map, because you were very poor after the opening phase of this game. So if your Swarmos are over here, I can kill everything on the other side of the map, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, well, now that means that Huck is 3-0 on the day.
Yeah.
TLO's only won a single game against Major and had 2 what I would call pretty bitter losses, where he was so close, but of course Major's stability knocked him out. When we come back, will TLO fall and drop to 0-2 in his group, or will the beginnings of a comeback start? Stay tuned.